everybody. We're gonna be making some delicious homemade cinnamon buns today and talking about the science as we go. Let's get started. All right, first things first, I've got all my ingredients and tools laid out so they are easily in reach as I go. So the first thing we did is we made some filling. So the filling here is a mixture of our 2 cinnamons, dark and granulated, as well as our spices, so our cinnamon, cloves, and a little bit of nutmeg because I like nutmeg. And then we added in some melted butter. Now, right now it all looks like one thing, but it is just a mixture. So this is a mixture of a bunch of different compounds mixed together. So only a physical reaction has happened here. Also be careful not to drop your Pyrex bowls onto things. So this has just been a physical change. Same with our melted butter. Butter obviously comes usually in solid form, but when you melt it, that's going to be our another physical change. We're just heating it up in the microwave, letting it melt. So once it's all mixed together, it should look kind of like wet sand, and that's when you know that your mixture is all good to go. So let's get working on the dough. All right, just like with any dough, we're gonna separate out our wets and our dry ingredients. So let's start with our flour, sugar, baking powder, and baking soda, and a little bit of salt. So that's all gonna go into this larger bowl. Now, we're using both baking powder and baking soda. I know I lifted those in opposite directions. So there is a difference between these. Baking powder is actually just baking soda with cream of tartar in it. So cream of tartar is acidic, and the sodium bicarbonate in baking soda will react with an acid in order to create those carbon dioxide bubbles, and that will be a chemical change, and that's what's gonna allow our nice cinnamon rolls to rise and get nice and fluffy and flaky. So we do use both of these. This one will react with itself once it gets wet because of the cream of tartar and sodium bicarbonate in it. And our baking soda will not react by itself, but it will be reacting with our acidic buttermilk. So these two will get together in the dough, and they will be nice and happy and makes lovely, lovely bubbles for us. Now we're gonna do 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Right, next thing I'm gonna need is 2 tablespoons of my sugar. We're gonna do 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder. We're gonna need 1/2 teaspoon of our baking soda. All right, now we just need to whisk this together. Now, the same way we did with our filling, this is still just a physical change. I'm just mixing it together. Nothing in here is going to react. We can see there's no unexpected color changes, no temperature changes, no smell changes, nothing changes. They just mix together. We just want it to get nice and incorporated in there. So now we get to open up our buttermilk. So buttermilk is interesting because it's technically already a little bit soured. That gives it that nice acidic buttermilk taste, which is going to be really important in making sure that it reacts with our baking soda. All right, so I'm gonna need 1 1/4 cups of our buttermilk. So buttermilk has actually undergone chemical changes, and you can see some of the little yellow dots that are in there. So it definitely has a smell, and that smell is from the chemical changes that happen in the culturing of buttermilk with those bacteria. So next I need 6 tablespoons of butter. I already have 1 tablespoon in there from the old stick, but I'm going to just cut my butter. Remember, cutting something is a physical change. It's still butter. It's just now 2 pieces of butter. Alrighty, now that my butter is nice and melted and liquid, I'm going to mix that in. Alright, now that we have that, let's bring it back our dries. So I've got my dry ingredients, and I've got my wets that I'm gonna just put in there. I'm gonna take this out before it gets clumpy. Now this dough is where a lot of the reactions are going to take place now that I've put my buttermilk in with my baking powder. So it is now wet, which means it can react. All right, now that we have this shaggy dough, we do need to knead it. All right, I've got my nice kind of smooth dough. It's no longer particularly shaggy. And we are going to now prepare our cinnamon rolls. All right, so we're gonna have to pat it into a 12-inch by 9-inch rectangle. Alrighty, now that we have our dough all nice and squared out, we need to brush some butter onto it. All right, and now it is time for the filling. So sprinkle the filling on. You want to leave about 1/2 inch around the edge. All right, so we want to loosen up our dough. So now we want to roll it, and as we are rolling, we want to press very lightly. And now we're gonna cut it. Alrighty, now I've got my 8 pieces, and they're gonna go into my greased baking pan. Now you can grease this with butter, or I like to use a special baking spray for that. All right, and I've got my cinnamon rolls together in my 9-inch cake pan, and these are gonna go into the oven at 425 until they are cooked. So that'll take about 23 to 25 minutes. So we're gonna be looking for golden brown edges. All right, now that our oven is preheated to 425, we're gonna let these cook for about 23 to 25 minutes. We're gonna be looking for a nice golden brown. And that golden brown is gonna be caused by caramelization and the Maillard reaction as it cooks. We're also gonna see them start to puff up as carbon dioxide bubbles are created, another chemical change that's gonna be happening. Remember, that's due to our baking powder reacting with the cream of tartar already in it, as well as our baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, reacting with our acidic buttermilk. So that's gonna create the nice bubbles that are gonna puff these up beautifully. All right, so we can see that lovely golden brown color. Remember, that is the result of our chemical reactions happening there, so we can see that change in color. There's also a change in smell. I know you guys can't smell it through the video, but it smells heavenly and cinnamony, and that is going to tell us that our chemical reaction has finished. All right, so they're gonna cool for a little bit while I make the glaze. So for my glaze, I'm gonna need to start with my softened cream cheese, 2 tablespoons of it. We wanna make sure it's soft so it's easy to mix around. Remember, softening doesn't mean I'm doing any sort of chemical thing to it. It's just leaving it out until it warms up because it's absorbing that thermal energy from around in the air. All right, and then I'm gonna add in 2 tablespoons of our buttermilk as well. All right, now that your mixture's all smoothed out, we're going to be adding in our cup of confectioner's sugar. All right, now that we've sieved it all together, we are going to just mix it up. All right, and there's our glaze. Alrighty, now comes the last section. We just need to glaze our rolls. Alright, our cream cheese icing is up on top of it, and then we've got that nice golden brown from our chemical reactions. And then when I pull one of these out, you'll be able to see all that ooey gooey center. So we can see those little air pockets in here from our chemical reaction there. So that is from the baking powder and the baking soda reacting as it cooked, creating that carbon dioxide in a chemical reaction. So there you have it. Quick homemade cinnamon buns.